This is the main news at 19:30 on Camnet TV. Welcome to it. Let's look at the top stories. Lusaka City Council directors implicated in the misuse of council resources. Court finds Fresha SIWALE guilty of defaming former President EDGAR LUNGU. A consortium of NGOs gives government a 23-day ultimatum to give KCM back to VEDANTA. In international headlines, Zimbabwean Parliament approves a controversial new law ahead of elections. And in sports, Copper Queens to get home send-off match before departure to Germany camp. We have the details shortly after this message.
Salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. You lift one hand and I'll lift the other hand, because our man of God in a surrendered position is more dangerous than an entire army. In the name of the Lord Jesus, today God will remove every form of iniquity, every ounce of iniquity that has been around you. Then I said, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, to fulfill what is written of me. So that I can understand that when Mary is in that crowd, part of her is crying for them to choose Jesus over Barabbas. But she doesn't understand the mystery of redemption. That Jesus did not come to the world to die a normal death, because a normal death does not do anything for you and I. Your great and mighty power, the heavens declare. Your great and mighty power, you're greater than the greatest, you're mightier than the mightiest, you're stronger than the strongest, better than the best.
To present the news, my name is Louisia Nalupumbwe. We're now the news in detail. Some directors at the Lusaka City Council, LCC, have been implicated in financial irregularities, which has led to 2 months of non-payment of salaries for council workers at the council. This came to light when the Zambia United Local Authority Workers Union of Zambia held a meeting with the affected workers in Lusaka Friday morning. The council workers who have been on strike have threatened to demonstrate to State House by Monday if their plight is not addressed. Meanwhile, the union's president, Emmanuel Mwinsa, has assured of government's intervention, citing that a letter requesting for the release of 45 million kwacha has been addressed to Secretary to the Treasury, awaiting approval by next week. Details are in this report.
Lusaka City Council Nakatindi Hall was heated for over an hour as council workers entered day 3 of demanding better conditions of services. The workers explained that they have not been paid for 2 months and are asking why the city mothers have not remitted their NAPSA and NIMA contributions and failed to address transport challenges despite levying numerous activities in the city, among them bus stations, markets, billboards. The workers are calling for the overhaul of the Lusaka City Council management, alleging that some directors and councillors have formed cartels that are causing financial defects.
We want to listen from you. Because Mamakangiwa speech yanu mukambate vinanti speech mufuna kutuza mapointi kutizangena.
Is it not illegal to pay people per semester? Is it not illegal? Safety and health management, and it's there. When you go to Ministry of Labor, they are the ones who are mandated to check each and every institutions how they are working. Here we are sleeping.
NAPSA anzaka tenga kwa 20% ndalama kulini kuna sifuko kuja kulibe ndalama tiri manyumba isemalenti olete ine 3 days time semeni paka mana katindi paja.
We have no confidence, a vote of no confidence to our local.
If we won't get paid on Monday,
make sure everyone got paid. Then we need a date where we need to...
Serious about the 3,000 workers, they vote for him. If Nakangena, the vote for him is there. If Ndasikanangene, there is a disaster.
Meanwhile, the Zambia United Local Authorities Workers Union of Zambia, ZULAU, has assured the aggrieved workers that their dues will be made available by next week. Union President Emmanuel Mwinsa says once Secretary to the Treasury approves the request to release funds, smiles on the aggrieved workers will be restored.
Period of time in addressing it becomes a thorn in the flesh of the affected persons. So the pain that you experience from the same is what now you are expressing. My dear colleagues, may I mention that with the engagements, the levels of engagements that we commenced, there was a time when we held a meeting with the previous management. When I mention the previous management, I mean the previous town clerk. This meeting was held together with the management, and the subject matter was to resolve the issue of unpaid salaries at that time. We were hoping that we are going to have the lasting solution to this, but one of the things that were done when we presented these matters before government were to make adjustments at management level. You are aware that it was from that level of engagement where reshuffles were made and brought in a new management where we have now the new town clerk. Having said that, colleagues, this problem persisted. We had a meeting as a national center with management, the new management. When we presented this issue, what was resolved was that Lusaka City Council cannot come out of the issues of unpaid salary arrears. When there was a meeting to meet with the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, these matters were presented. The quickest solution that was looked into was for government to authorize the contraction of...
While the workers have received threats from the council management, should their demands fail to be met by Monday, a demonstration to State House is imminent. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Now, students from 18 various constituencies in Zambia have highlighted how skills training under the Constituency Development Fund (CDF) has changed their lives. Speaking during a showcasing exercise of their various skills at VEDANTA Training Academy in Lusaka Friday, Agnes Mudenda, a student from Monze Central Constituency, says females have also been given an opportunity to train in male-dominated courses such as power electrical skills. Meanwhile, VEDANTA Training Academy Principal Camnet states that the institution received a total of 530 students under CDF, while 7 who are training in heavy-duty skills have so far graduated and are employed in both the public and the private sector. We have details in this report.
They are here showcasing the different skills that they are acquiring at VEDANTA Training Academy in Lusaka's Libala area under constituency development funding. These are youths drawn from 18 different constituencies in the country who are being trained in computer studies, fashion and design, plumbing, tailoring, and automotive mechanics, among other skills. The students have a message for other citizens in the country who may have been reluctant in applying for skills development under CDF to take a leap of faith.
For those who are in society, I would rather tell them that this school, it's really helped us to achieve many skills, so that when you go into society, we teach others. It has helped me because I was just home. I didn't have anyone to sponsor me. I was home. So this CDF have helped me because I don't pay anything. Yeah.
After so even when you talk in my school,
so my message to those people is that they should just work hand in hand with the councillors so that they can be able to get the forms and also engage themselves in this school. Actually, this school is very helping because we are not paying everything. Everything you are getting it for free. Education, like we are not paying for school fees, we are not paying for food, even the boarding house, we are not also paying for it.
VEDANTA Training Academy Principal Clement Antumbu, while acknowledging the importance of the initiative, has called for bureaucracy at the Lusaka City Council to be lessened, stating that the institution does not always receive the funds on time due to this.
Government, whilst it is doing the correct things, but the people that are the major stakeholder to ourselves, who are the councils, it seems there's a lot of bureaucracy in terms of releasing funds. Whereas ultimately, the people that suffer, they are students, because we normally go into our school coffers in order to mend the gap. So, you know, the school, they get strained. We end up actually denying, sometimes maybe delaying salaries in order to make students late. Now, if a lecturer is delayed to be paid, we will not put a good effort into teaching the students. So these are challenges.
Meanwhile, VEDANTA Training Academy Chief Executive Officer Kalinda Miyoba also had a word.
We want to thank the new Don government for giving an opportunity to the disadvantaged youths out there in different sectors of the country. Now, as it's been elaborated from our principal, we have a quite number of students that have enrolled in different constituencies to obtain skills and training center. I think this program that has been initiated by the government is going to help the growth of the government economy through skills and training center. I believe that these learners, after finishing their studies, they will assist the government to become employers to different areas where they are coming from.
A total of 530 students have been enrolled by the institution since the Skills Initiative began under the current administration, and 7 have so far graduated, with some having found employment in both the public and private sectors. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
And now, Katuwa Constituency Member of Parliament Mwabashike Nkulukusa has assured members of his constituency of critical infrastructure such as schools, teachers' houses and health facilities within a period of 3 years using the Constituency Development Fund (CDF). In an interview, Mr. Nkulukusa notes that the constituency has been left out on developmental projects for over 15 years, leading to an outcry among members of the rural constituency. Recently, residents of Katuwa constituency bemoaned the dilapidated school and the clinic infrastructure, among other challenges.
Katuwa constituency has undertaken a number of projects. If you really counted them, they are in excess of 27 projects that we have done. And so we waited that instead of us spending 180,000 kwacha to put a roof on a school that would be a danger to children, we would rather top up in 2023 so that we have 800,000 kwacha and ensure that we bring down that school and build a new one. However, the parents have demanded that instead of bringing that one down for now, they want a brand new school. And remember, President Hakainde said, let development come from the grassroots. So we have listened to them, we have put money aside, we are building them a brand new classroom block. After that, we will move into the issue of teachers' housing, but more in community schools now than in existing schools, because community schools, there was completely no housing at all. Nothing for the teachers. And remember, with the recruitment of over 30,000 teachers, community schools have benefited a lot.
A consortium of non-governmental organizations has given government a 23-day ultimatum to conclude Konkola Copper Mines Vedanta negotiations and hand over calcium to Vedanta Resources in the interest of unlocking and revamping the mining sector. Zambians for Unity, Peace and Development President Ronnie Zere says If government does not yield to the 23-day ultimatum, the consortium will inform the public on the way forward. Mr. Jerry says that mining is a key source of revenue through taxes, hence the need to ensure that all loopholes affecting its effective implementation is amicably dealt with. Meanwhile, advocates for national development and democracy Executive Director Samuel Banda says his organization is worried that despite numerous assurances from President Hakainde Hichilema and Minister of Mines that the non-functionality status of both KCM and Mopani will be addressed, nothing has materialized so far.
The claims of having negotiations for over 2 years are neither here nor there. We want to categorically state that we feel a few individuals are benefiting from the mines at the expense of 20 million Zambians. We have been prompted to give government 23 days to resolve what they claim are issues surrounding KCM and Mopani, failure to which we will inform the nation on what course of action we will take.
Government an ultimatum to hand over KCM to VEDANTA resources so that the mine can begin to operate at optimum level and create the much needed employment and business opportunities. After numerous assurances from President Hakainde Hichilema and his Minister of Mines that the non-functionality status of KCM and the Mopani mines will be addressed. So far, nothing has materialized.
And our new Labour Party leader, SIWALE, has been found guilty by the LUSAKA Magistrate Court for alleging that former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU is an identity thief. This was in a case in which the opposition leader was slapped with 1 count of defamation of the president. Mr. SIWALE has, however, been given an absolute discharge following the repeal Section 69 of the Penal Code, which has abolished the crime of defaming the president. We have details in this report.
Despite being discharged by the subordinate court from a charge of defamation of the president, opposition leader for the new Labour Party, SIWALE, says it is unfair for the court to convict him if the prosecution failed to establish a prima facie case against him.
The prosecution failed to establish the prima facie case against me of defamation of the president. So it is injustice of highest order for the presiding magistrate to convict me. Because the onus lies with the prosecution to prove the ingredients of the case. But in this case, they failed. So how does the magistrate convict me without the prosecution proving its case?
Mr. SIWALE was found guilty this morning, Friday, by Nakonde Chief Resident Magistrate Alice Walusiku, who was sitting in LUSAKA, for alleging that former Republican President EDGAR LUNGU is an identity thief. Delivering judgment, the court has found that Mr. SIWALE intended to defame the former head of state, however failed to show that he was Jonathan and not Lungu. Mr. SIWALE has, however, been given an absolute discharge following the repeal Section 69 of the Penal Code, which has abolished the crime of defaming the president. On the 23rd of December 2022, President Hakainde Hichilema assented to the Penal Code Amended Bill No. 25 of 2022, which repeals Section 69 of the Penal Code and effectively abolishes the crime of defaming the president. An absolute discharge is the lowest level adult sentence that an offender can get. If an offender gets an absolute discharge, a finding of guilty is made but no conviction is registered. Facts before court are that Mr. SIWALE on the 22nd of April 2018, with intent to bring the name of the former Republican President Edgar Lungu into ridicule, published defamatory matter by word of mouth, to which he said the former head of state is not the actual Edgar Lungu but Jonathan Mutawale. He must be arrested for having 3 national registration cards. He is an identity thief. However, Mr. SIWALE, who was previously found with a case to answer and put on his defense by the court, failed to prove his allegations. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Lusaka Magistrate Court has sentenced former Kafue Gorge Regional Training Center Director Kayela Siame to 2 years imprisonment with hard labor for illegally approving payment of substance allowances to the organization's employees worth $35,000. Magistrate Fides Hamaundo found Mr. Siame guilty of 9 counts of abuse of authority and sentenced him to 2 years each in all the counts to run concurrently. We have details in this report.
Apart from losing his job, former Kafue Gorge Regional Training Center Executive Director Kayela Siame will have to spend 2 years of his life in a correctional facility after the Lusaka Magistrate Court found him guilty of abuse of authority. Mr. Siame was this morning, Friday, the 2nd of June 2023, sentenced to 2 years imprisonment with hard labor for illegally approving payment of subsistence allowances to KGRTC workers worth $35,000 United States dollars. In a judgment, Magistrate Fides Hamaundo has found that the state has proved the case against the convict beyond reasonable doubt. In mitigation, the convict pleaded for mercy with the court, praying that it uses its discretion to give him a suspended sentence rather than a custodial sentence, given the fact that the money was fully recovered. However, Magistrate Hamaundo, who noted with concern how government is losing a lot of resources through heads of department, disclosed that the court has a duty to help the government not to lose money by convicting anyone found wanting in order to deter would-be offenders. According to facts before court, Mr. Siame between 2016 and 2020 abused his authority of office when on multiple occasions approved application for subsistence allowances amounting to $35,000 United States dollars for a project that was fully sponsored, an act prejudicial to the rights and interests of government, a matter of transaction involving the Kafue Gorge Regional Training Center, a public body. During trial, Anti-Corruption Commission Senior Prosecutor Daniel Ngwira presented different witnesses before court, among them an arresting officer who had testified how government lost about $85,635 United States dollars, monies which the witness said was not supposed to be paid to named members of staff of KGRTC as allowances because the programs they were attending outside the country were fully sponsored. Mr. Siame was arrested in June 2022 by the Anti-Corruption Commission and slapped with 9 counts of abuse of authority. Meanwhile, the convict has indicated through his lawyer that he plans to appeal his sentence. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Zambia must prosper. President Kelvin Fubewalia and 4 others have pleaded not guilty before the Lusaka Magistrate Court for engaging in a transaction that involved proceeds of crime. Mr. Fube, a lawyer by profession, is jointly charged with Lusaka businessman and music promoter Walia Kalandania, beauty charmer, a clerk, Ibrahim Mita, and Hassan Hanif Mita, both businessmen. They are facing charges of money laundering and failing to report a suspicious transaction. Allegations in one of the counts is that the accused negligently failed to submit a suspicious report to the Financial Intelligence Crime Center. Further allegations are that whilst acting together, the quintet engaged in a transaction that involved proceeds of crime. The matter comes up on the 17th of July for commencement of trial. The Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries Department of Veterinary Services is concerned that the private sector has not been fully participating in the dog-mediated rabies control and elimination strategy for Zambia. Speaking during a donation ceremony at Auction Auto Zambia, Deputy Director of Veterinary Services, Dr. Fusia Goma, has called for inclusive participation in controlling and eliminating dog-mediated rabies in the country to ensure protection of the society from the effects of rabies. Meanwhile, Action Auto Zambia Head of Sales and Marketing, Lilia Samui, is optimistic that the over 3,000 doses of dog and rabies vaccine that have been donated will impact the residents of Kabwe and Kapirimposhi. We have details in this report.
In Zambia, approximately 15,000 dog bite cases are recorded annually, resulting in 50 human deaths of rabies. To this effect, the rabies control strategy in Zambia is based on dog vaccination, dog population control, and dog movement restrictions, coupled with to end dog-mediated human rabies by 2030 strategy. Speaking at a donation ceremony at Action Auto Zambia Friday, Deputy Director of Veterinary Services, Dr. Fuswa Goma, called for inclusive participation in controlling and eliminating dog-mediated rabies in the country to ensure protection of the society.
Might be bitten by dogs. And I must mention that when you have a dog, it's your responsibility to ensure that it's vaccinated. Because if you don't, one, you're breaking the law, but two, you're also endangering the lives of people. And most of the people who get bitten by dogs.
In complementing government efforts to fight rabies, Action Auto Zambia is optimistic that the over 3,000 doses of dog and rabies vaccine will positively impact society.
So it's another 3,000 odd vaccines once again. The pricing has gone up significantly since the last year. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that, and we would have hoped to actually increase it if we could, but we had to also look at cost factor. But at the same time, we also realize any and every donation we know will go towards the campaign, towards the success of the campaign, and most especially towards vaccinating these dogs. I mean, as was also said by the director, rabies impacts a lot more our younger population, our children. They look after the dogs, to be honest. They love the dogs, they play with the dogs. And if we can assist in ensuring, in terms of public health, that they are protected by just a simple vaccine, then that is something that we would...
Meanwhile, Kabwe and Kapirimposhi District Veterinary Officer is positive that the ending dog-mediated human rabies by 2030 strategy will be accomplished.
Not only the campaign for Kabwe, it's a campaign for the entire country. So we hope that by 2030, I think we are remaining with how many years now? Around 7 years. We hope that with consistent vaccinations for the remaining 7 years countrywide, then we'll have eliminated the rabies virus. So there are a lot of implications apart from needless deaths arising from the disease. There's the implication of the cost implication, the human resource implication. Our health systems are burdened by various issues, and if we remove the rabies burden from there, it would go a long way to give more time, resources to other needy areas, such as maternal health and all those other issues.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Thank you so much for staying glued to our main news. Just now we take our first set of commercials. When we get back, we have more local stories to join us shortly after the break.
I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, man. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Deborah, have you connected to the Wi-Fi on the bus? It's fast, it's amazing. I've just downloaded my books and I'm about to complete the series. It's nice, too.
No, I'm actually watching a reality show. He's about to propose. Oh, so sweet.
Make your trip seem short yet comfortable and safe when you use the UBZ luxurious fully air-conditioned coaches that come fitted with amazing onboard entertainment, passenger information services, coffee-making facilities and fridge for your hot and cold beverages, free and interrupted Wi-Fi for your gadgets, phone charging facilities, comfortable seats that recline to offer extra resting posture, safety seat belts, adjustable reading lights for each traveling client, and of course, clean flushing toilets for your convenience. So travel in luxury and safety with UBZ luxurious coaches. UBZ will always take you there.
On National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest.
And the people that have got the passion and desire are equipped with something. They shouldn't be doing mining like Valeri Makandolo. You know, those people have got the capacity to turn around our economy. These same people that we look down on. We don't have to always be rushing for investors.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. You lift one hand and I'll lift the other hand, because our man of God in a surrendered position is more dangerous than an entire army. In the name of the Lord Jesus, today God will remove every form of iniquity, every ounce of iniquity that has been around you. Then I said, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, to fulfill what is written of me. So that I can understand that when Mary is in that crowd, part of her is crying for them to choose Jesus over Barabbas. But she doesn't understand the mystery of redemption. That Jesus did not come to the world to die a normal death, because a normal death does not do anything for you and I. Your great and mighty power, the heavens declare. Your great and mighty power, you're greater than the greatest, you're mightier than the mightiest, you're stronger than the strongest, better than the best.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. The Small-Scale Miners Association of Zambia has requested the Zambian government to consider giving tax holidays to small mines to boost their businesses. Speaking when they made submissions at the ongoing 2024 budget consultative meeting in Lusaka Friday, Association Representative Chiwesa Sankisa says small and medium miners should be given at least 5-year tax-free periods upon issuance of mining rights. Mr. Sankisa says this will enable them organize their mining operations in the same way the large-scale mines usually enjoyed tax-intensive, usually at the start-up stage. Meanwhile, Chinese Chamber of Commerce President Mr. Li Tai has proposed to the Zambian government to consider reducing custom duty on heavy and light trucks from 13% to 0 and tipping from 10% to 0.
The sector should be given at least a 5-year tax-free period upon issuance of mining rights to enable them organize their mining operations, just like the large-scale miners usually enjoy tax incentives during the setup phase. The SM sector should be considered for the scaling down of the mineral royalties to a standard rate of 3% instead of the current, which is based on a graduating rate from 4.5 going upwards depending on the tonnages. In order to encourage value addition, all gemstone cutting and polishing and other processing machinery and accessories should be zero rated.
We propose to reduce the tax for light truck and also heavy truck. We propose to reduce customs duty from 30% to 0 and IED reduced from 10 to 0. The reason we consider that is the duty for used car is quite low, much more lower than new one. So buyers go for second hand instead of new ones. And the government doesn't benefit from that high tax because because the different in price, so most buyers, they just buy the second hand.
The Energy Regulation Board, ERB, has cautioned oil marketing companies, or MCs, and petroleum retail dealers against deliberately holding back sales of petroleum products in the days leading up to the announcement of the monthly pricing review. In a statement to the media, ERB Public Relations Manager Namukolo Kasumpa says the practice is tantamount to holding and is an offense under Clause 2.2 of the conditions of the license to retail petroleum products. Mrs. Kasumpa explains that this caution comes against the background of purported stockout reports at some filling stations prior to the ERB price review announcement. She says hoarding petroleum products creates an artificial impression of fuel stock shortage across the country, triggering anxiety in the market and putting undue pressure on the petroleum supply chain.
The Energy Regulation Board would like to caution oil marketing companies and petroleum retail dealers against deliberately holding back sales of petroleum products, especially in the days leading up to the announcement of the monthly pricing review. This practice is tantamount to holding and is an offense under Clause 2.2 of the conditions of the license to retail petroleum products. This caution comes against the background of purported stockout reports at some filling stations prior to the ERB price review announcement. Holding petroleum products creates an artificial impression of fuel stock shortages across the country, triggering unnecessary anxiety in the market and putting undue pressure on the petroleum supply chain. The ERB hereby reiterates any licensee found in breach of license conditions will be subjected to the due enforcement action, which includes fines, suspension, and/or revocation of their respective license.
The Governance Elections Advocacy Research Services GEARS initiative has urged political parties and other concerned stakeholders to begin mass sensitization against political violence ahead of the general elections in 2026. In an exclusive interview, GEARS Programs Coordinator Gideon Musonda says this is to ensure that the message is inculcated in culprits who are mostly youths belonging to various political parties. Mr. Musonda says the country should move away from a culture of only intensifying such messages during election time and expecting to see real change. Meanwhile, Mr. Musonda has applauded the Electoral Commission of Zambia (EDGAR) for allowing civil society organizations to monitor the continuous voter registration process, stating that this will create transparency. We have details in this report.
Recent general and by-elections in Zambia have witnessed incidents of political violence, which has seen groups belonging to rival political parties colliding. Despite its consequences, such as denting the image of the country to the international community and reducing investor confidence, coupled with calls from various sectors for this to come to an end, the trend has continued to be seen. The Governance Elections Advocacy Research Services GEARS initiative, through its programs coordinator Gideon Musonda, is of the view that ending political violence in Zambia requires a long-term plan which goes beyond raising voices against the vice during election time. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Musonda has also thanked the Electoral Commission of Zambia (ECZ) for opening up the continuous voter registration process for monitoring, unlike was the case before.
The same attention that is paid, during election should be paid, to all the stages of the electoral process. So, in enhancing civic education, talking about the negatives, issues of why people should not, involve themselves in electoral violence, I think is key. And it's not something that can be turned around during an election. It should be a process of cultivating the culture that is that enhances, democracy, the culture where there is political tolerance, the culture where people embrace each other and understand that the values of democracy, it's about, competing on ideas rather than in physical engagement. We can disagree, but we are one as a nation.
The GEARS Programs Coordinator also says the country needs to have a coordinated discussion as regards electronic voting, as well as voting for those in the diaspora.
But unfortunately, the Commission did not follow its area communicated timeline in which they would undertake activities towards building on, to that very important aspect that speaks to inclusion, of people in the diaspora, so that they can easily be able to participate in the electoral process. However, there are no specific timelines. There hasn't been much progress in terms of what the area mentioned. So we can only urge them, to also expedite, the process of consultation, engagement with all the stakeholders, so that we can agree, on one point and see how we can move the process forward. It's extremely important that, for example, the e-voting, we embrace, technology for purposes of, making our electoral process efficient and effective.
He hopes that by 2026, everything will be well coordinated. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Central Province Agricultural Coordinator Alex Chilala says government through the Ministry of Agriculture has partnered with African Development Bank, AFDB and the World Bank to open up Nansanga farm block. Mr. Chilala says government through the African Development Bank is set to clear about 5,000 hectares of land in Nansanga and empower farmers with farming inputs. The provincial coordinator said for Nansanga to develop and attract investors, there is need to provide basic infrastructure such as roads, water and electricity. We have details by Nais.
Government has embarked on an ambitious farm block development program to facilitate rural development and encourage private sector investment. To accelerate the development of farm blocks such as the Nansanga, government has sought partnership with the African Development Bank and World Bank. Central Province Agriculture Coordinator Alex Chilala has chaired the partnership, saying the two projects, once implemented, will attract investors.
It's very exciting that I think, just like we are also sitting on a World Bank funded, activities, ADB is also coming on board to try and see how they can also be involved in the pressurizing, Nansanga farm block. So with that facility, two facilities, World Bank and ADB, I think the moment we start, having those funds coming into there, I think we will seriously see a total transformation of the block. Transformation in the sense that ADB is coming on board, who are saying they want to empower farmers, those that are within the vicinity, to clear a total hectarage of 5,000. After clearing the land, they will be able to empower this farmer with the farming inputs. And after getting the farming inputs, they will also facilitate now to find a market for these produce, whatever this farmer will be able to produce. So, and they want to support this farmer for at least 5 years. Everyone wants to see the farm block functional. It's not just about the government willingness, but I think even on the ground, farmers and people out there are willing to support the government efforts.
Reporting for NAIS in Central Province, I'm Moses Nyati.
We take our last break. We'll be right back with the rest of the news in international and sports news. Do join us shortly.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
On National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chilua with his guest.
And the people that have got the passion and desire are equipped with something. They shouldn't be doing mining like VEDANTA Makandolo. You know, those people have got the capacity to turn around our economy. These same people that we look down on. We don't have to always be rushing for investors.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages. Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. You lift one hand and I'll lift the other hand, because our man of God in a surrendered position is more dangerous than an entire army. In the name of the Lord Jesus, today God will remove every form of iniquity, every ounce of iniquity that has been around you. Then I said, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, to fulfill what is written of me. So that I can understand that when Mary is in that crowd, part of her is crying for them to choose Jesus over Barabbas. But she doesn't understand the mystery of redemption. That Jesus did not come to the world to die a normal death, because a normal death does not do anything for you and I. Your great and mighty power, the heavens declare. Your great and mighty power, you're greater than the greatest, you're mightier than the mightiest, you're stronger than the strongest, better than the best.
Welcome back. In our international news, the Senegalese government has praised the justice system following the conviction on Thursday of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko on charges of corruption. The court's announcement was followed by protests across the country. According to the Interior Ministry, 9 people were killed in the clashes. In other international stories, Parliament in Zimbabwe has approved a controversial new law that criminalizes acts that damage the sovereignty and national interest of the Southern African country. The new law was passed hours after the government announced nationwide elections for August 23rd. Critics claim the new law kills free speech. Here's a roundup of international news.
Parliament in Zimbabwe has approved a controversial new law that criminalizes acts that damage the sovereignty and national interest of the Southern African country. The new law was passed hours after the government announced nationwide elections for August 23rd. Critics claim the new law kills free speech.
What they're criminalizing is differing opinion against ZANU-PF and a different opinion from Mnangagwa himself, who is a presidential candidate for ZANU-PF. And this happens at the edge of an election, showing without any doubt that the envelope of reform is being done by ZANU, contrary to what they put, particularly in the international community, that they are reforming.
The bill is the latest in a series of moves that critics say are aimed at shutting down dissenting voices in the run-up to the elections.
They want to be seen to be hardliners, so they want this law to try and put fear in the hearts of the electorate, in the hearts of the opposition, by using this bad law, which is coming on the eve of an election.
President Emerson Mnangagwa is seeking a second term in August. His main challenger is Nelson Chamisa from the newly formed CCC party. The Senegalese government praised the justice system following the conviction on Thursday of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko on charges of corruption. The court's announcement was followed by protests across the country. According to the Interior Ministry, 9 people were killed in the clashes. A politician was taken to the justice system by a woman who accused him of a number of things. The justice system has done its job, which everyone has heard for days. There are threats, invective and intimidation. The role of the executive is to ensure that all institutions function. We were told that there would be no justice, that people don't recognize the Senegalese justice system. It has done its job, of course, with complete independence and transparency. Sonko's lawyer said a warrant had not yet been issued for the politician's arrest. Sonko was sentenced to 2 years in prison. There is also no insurrectionary project because Senegal also has something that is specific to Africa. Senegal as a state, a strong state that functions, that has faced up to itself, a state that stands on its own feet. And any plans of insurrection come up against the robustness of this state's infrastructure. So here, we are a democracy in which calls for insurrection have no chance of prospering. Ousmane Sonko is considered President Macky Sall's main rival and has urged the president to state publicly that he will not be seeking a third term in office.
It's becoming an all too familiar sound. Sweltering temperatures across northern Vietnam mean air conditioners have been working overtime. Local authorities say the demands placed on the power grid are unsustainable, forcing planned blackouts. Businesses in the capital, Hanoi, have been hit hard.
Power cuts happen quite often at my restaurant, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes twice in the morning and twice in the evening. The power cuts make it impossible to run a business as we lose credibility with customers and income.
From restaurants to grocery store owners, trying to keep anything cold or hot is near impossible. There have been a lot of empty seats at tables as owners balance increasing costs with less revenue.
The heat and the power cuts have severely affected our business. We've had to rent a large power generator, which is a big chunk of our operational costs.
But through adversity, many have found opportunity. A combination of severe heat and power cuts, it puts more money in your pocket if you sell the right things.
With this extreme weather, our sales have increased by 60 to 70%. The forecasters say this year will have new records due to El Niño, so I expect demand for our stock to keep rising.
With temperatures reaching at least 44 degrees Celsius this week, people here are sure to be looking for any way to keep the heat at bay.
And that is all the news that we could accommodate in international news for now, but next is sports. In our sports news, the FIFA World Cup bound Copper Queens will get the send-off international friendly match on home soil prior to their departure for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup preparatory camp in Germany. Football Association of Zambia General Secretary Ruben Kamanga says, apart from giving the Copper Queens adequate preparations for the 9th edition of the World Cup, the association wants to give fans an opportunity to watch the team this month. So far, the Copper Queens have played 7 high-level friendlies with games against Republic of Ireland and Germany confirmed for 22 June and 7 July respectively. And Kamanga says FAS enjoys a strong relationship with the Ministry of Sport, Youth and Arts and thanked President Hakainde Hichilema for his personal commitment in ensuring that FAS and its programs were supported. On that sporting item, we wrap up the main news this evening, but let's look at some of the stories that made the news. Lusaka City Council directors implicated in the misuse of council resources. Court finds Fresher SIWALE guilty of defaming former President Edgar Lungu. A consortium of NGO'S gives government a 23-day ultimatum to give KCM back to Vedanta. In international headlines, Zimbabwean Parliament approves controversial new law ahead of elections. And finally, in sports, Copper Queens to get home a send-off match before departure to Germany camp. We now look at the Camnet verse for today, coming from Philippians 4 verse 8. It reads, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good reports, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think of these things." Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production and news crew, my name is Louisia Nalupumbwe. Bye for now. God bless and enjoy your weekend.